I think now is the perfect time to get into New World Aeternum because we're essentially starting with a blank slate on October 15th. If you're coming from the console, it's 100% a clean slate. Open beta progress does not carry over. If you're coming over from PC, you've got stuff that's been built up over the years and none of that is going anywhere. It's just the game is switching over and we're getting two new additions added in and people are going to be able to log in for the first time off of consoles. So it's a pretty interesting place to be because I've played on PC, played when it launched, haven't really played it since then. Um, I'm looking at this as an opportunity to come in with everybody else that hasn't played and get to see 3 years of updates and content patches and quality of life improvements and everything else. When I played the open beta weekend, I was genuinely impressed. I did not anticipate seeing that much stuff that had changed. So for me, even though I had played it at launch and I'd played the main storyline and leveled up, this was completely different. I also love the fact that they've gone the route of just heavily refining that single player RPG, action RPG component of the game because it was always there. It was masked behind layers of, at the time, required group content like dungeons and stuff, which has now been gotten rid of. And now you can do the solo trials and you can go through and do all of that storyline all by yourself with the new cinematics and the new cutscenes and all that new stuff that they've added, along with the the archetypes, which give you the new armor set appearances and some starting weapons and some starting crafting stuff. It's a brand new experience on that side of things as well. So it's been genuinely for me pleasing to see this coming back and being more refined so that it fits in line with a lot of other games that exist in this space, like Star Wars: The Republic or Lord of the Rings Online or World of Warcraft, or to name some of them, Final Fantasy 14. They all have a single player component that you can do completely solo that covers all of the storyline, and then there's all the optional stuff you can do with other people, which are the dungeons and the raids and the PvP and all of those types of activities. So it's really cool to see that because playing through recently, when I got to the trials, I was like, these are pretty tough, but I don't have to sit around waiting trying to find a group to do the dungeon. Like it was so nice to have that component stripped out and separated and have it be its own thing. And I know there are some in the old guard who look back at the way the game was when it was in alpha or beta and say, hey, this was when it was best. And we have people from launch who are like, but I want that forced grouping. I want forced dungeons. Um, you could still run those dungeons whenever you want with your friends, and you can get exactly the experience that you want out of the game with dungeon runs. The rest of us, the players who appreciate being able to do things solo, we're going to be able to also experience the game in New World Aeternum in our own way. And having all of those players mixed together, more players playing your game is never a bad thing. So I think this is the perfect time to play New World Aeternum because it's got a brand new population. We still have plenty of people who have been there since the beginning who play the base game, but it's definitely a niche audience, and that's the same as any other MMORPG that's out there. Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars: The Republic, all the games I listed earlier are niche. I think the one exception to that might be World of Warcraft, which has been around a while, but it also has a very massive, massive, massive audience. But all games are niche in their own right, and this one has had its own niche for a while. So it's really cool to see this new evolution of the game. Now, I don't have any plans to really play this as an MMO, and I wanted to put this video out for that reason because I know there are quite a few people who know where New World was when it launched and are possibly a little worried about, going in and finding out that they're going to have to do group content. Um, you don't. It's optional, which is awesome. It's there if you want to do it. I think the PvP stuff is great the way it's done as well because it's entirely consensual and entirely off in its own thing. So you can go do that if you want to. But if you don't want to, it doesn't impact you at all whatsoever. You don't have to participate. You can just have this really cool survival crafting action RPG that you're playing, where there are other people running around. It looks to me like they've polished quite a bit in terms of the performance as well, because it's a lot different than it was at launch. I played it on the PS5 during the open beta weekend, and it was buttery smooth the whole time. I played with the 4K resolution. I don't even think we had a crash um, at all over the weekend. The only thing I saw was a queue at the very beginning, which was about 40 minutes long, 30, 40 minutes long. And I'm okay with that because I would rather there be queues than server merges. And server merges happen for every game at some point after the launch, so it's not a big deal when it happens. But it's great to prolong that if you can, because it feels like you're on the same server. With some people, they appreciate the community aspect, but since I'm playing it from a single player perspective, it really doesn't matter to me where my character goes or where they end up. The other thing about this is because I'm not worried about really doing any of the, I'll definitely end up doing dungeons and raids, but I'll be doing them from the perspective of just joining groups to do with matchmaking, just to do that kind of stuff. I don't have any desire because we already have the World of Warcraft guild, and I get plenty of scheduled gaming with everything else I do. So this one, I'm very much just playing it loose, going in, doing the storyline, jumping in, running a dungeon. Um, I might try the new raid because that's brand new to the game, but I don't really have any long-term plans for this. Like this for me is like, okay, cool. I'll be able to play it. We've discussed, and I believe the single player storyline is going to be have roughly 40 to 50 hours of gameplay in it. Could potentially be more depending on how you play, like your style of gameplay. But knowing that there's a 40 to 50 hour main campaign on top of hundreds of hours of other optional activities that I can go do if I want, like grind up all my crafting, get deep into housing, go off and do the settlement stuff to help the settlements, go off and run raids and do the gear grind and all that stuff. Knowing that that's there if I want to is really cool because there's not a sub associated with this game. So it's you buy it and you've got it. So the only thing I think they've charged for since it came out was the DLC, which is totally normal. Most games charge for DLCs. So bearing that in mind, I'm sure at some point there will be a DLC down the road. I think from here, I know I've heard the criticisms from some of the existing player base on the PC is that they feel like they feel like Amazon spent too much time working on Eternum and not enough time putting out content for the older players. And I feel like that could possibly be a legitimate concern if, and this is the big thing, if Amazon had done something different. But spending the time to build Aeternum from the ground up so that they can get console people in to play together with the PC players on a cross progression or cross play, not cross progression. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Cross play. There is no cross progression. You cannot cross over between your PC, Xbox, and PS5. But there is cross play, so people from different devices can all log into the same shared mega server to play. That is worth more than content for the longevity of the game. You might not see it that way, you might not understand it, but believe me, that's how it works. In the game dev industry, which I have spent more than a decade in, it's always better to have more people playing your game because the more people you have playing your game, that allows you the flexibility to go on and then develop content for all of these things. So I hear what the PC players are saying, but as someone who hasn't spent thousands of hours playing the game, and all of you out there who are going to be playing New World Aeternum for the first time, the fact that there is hundreds of hours of gameplay at your fingertips because of 3 years worth of content means that they have a runway. Amazon Games does to have this out there in the wild and now start working on the content drips. I can't predict what's going to happen, but again, I'm here for what exists now with the base game. I'm treating this as a one and done that I then own and I can hop in when I want to check out patches and stuff, which is the same as I do with any other game. I just played Star Wars Outlaws, same thing. Space Marine 2, same thing. I play the base game, I jump in and I check patches. We've done that with Baldur's Gate 3, we've done that with Starfield, we've done that with you name the game. Like this is no different. So I'm looking forward to it. October 15th, we will be doing a playthrough. It's going to be the mainstream game from the 15th up until probably, I think all the way up to Dragon Age Veilguard. There will be a brief window in there where we go off and do Black Ops 6, but those single player campaigns for those Call of Duty games are usually only like half a dozen hours. So this is going to be the main jam for a couple of weeks in mid to end of October. I look forward to seeing your daily streams here and on Twitch. Don't forget the socials, Discord, Patreon, and beyond. Look forward to see you guys in game in New World Aeternum.